So we can both agree that a religious institution is a business because it has money coming in, money going out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the money source on this. Tithing. Do you agree with biblical tithing?
I've answered this. I think I said this to you privately and publicly. I believe tithing is a great principle, like Sabbath is a great principle. Me and my wife, $45,000 in debt, got sued, got our accounts levied, found out we had another $60,000 in debt while we were in the middle of a complete whirlwind while I was working that job that's actually why I got the job with the Adults with Developmental Disabilities. And for us, 10% has always been a good benchmark. I think it's a tool. I think it's a principle. I've never once felt like if I don't tithe, my crops are going to be destroyed and there's going to be a curse on me.
Yeah.
Tithing and giving, and again, when I say tithing, I'm just using it short form as like, hey, 10%, good principle.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it in a legalistic sense. So yeah, for me, tithing, I would say is a good principle. It's just like Sabbath. I'm assuming you take a day off every week.
Usually.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, but rest is good.
Yeah, no, I love rest.
Yeah, I like to take naps.
I'm a great sleeper.
Jesus is ultimately our Sabbath, right? But we would say, hey, man, you should take a day off. It's good for you. Do I turn my phone off and like don't touch buttons and you know what I mean? Like I don't do that. So that's how I would view. That's how I view tithing. It's been, I'd say, man, for probably close to 20 years, kind of the principle we've stuck to. And brother, we're debt free. We're doing well financially. Awesome. Again, as someone that comes from a broken family, someone that comes from poverty, like communism, and then poverty, welfare. I think there's something supernatural to that principle. That when you give consistently, when you make it a priority, that something unlocks the heart of generosity. And so now my goal is to give above 10%. We give above 10%. We give to charities and nonprofits outside of the church.
I love it.
And we give through the church. And I want to be the biggest donor in my church.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think the modern day church staff can be assimilated or similar to the Levitical priests of the temple back in the day?
I think it can loosely. It depends on what stream you're coming from. When Paul is writing in 1 Corinthians 9, which we can look at if you want to, he definitely seems to talk about the right of a pastor to make a living in 1 Corinthians 9. And then he goes right into that as a metaphor parallel. I wouldn't say it's a one-to-one, but I would say
I'm not talking about the salary. I'm talking about specifically because I've heard a lot of pastors say the Levitical priesthood that upheld the temple, that, processed the animals and sacrificed the animals.
Two big ideas to break down.
Yeah.
Number one, New Testament tithe. Your take, or
New
your
Testament
commentary
tithe.
on your commentary on Ruslan's take.
Like whether I agree with him or not.
Yeah.
It seems like, congratulations. It seems like they agree upon something here, which is good. And I also agree upon it, is that tithing, as in 10% of the income, is not does not seem to be, from my understanding of the New Testament scriptures, a requirement for believers to do. But generosity is a requirement for believers. It is a requirement to be generous if you are a spirit-filled follower of Jesus. Now, I do look back to things where, like, okay, before the law, right, Abraham tithed to Melchizedek, this mysterious man in the Old Testament.
He gave him 10% in Genesis before the law.
So there is, like Ruslan said, I think if you want to find a default amount to give, then I think 10% is a good benchmark.
Right. So, and I'm just clarifying again. You said generosity is required.
Yes.
Required.
Okay. Yeah. Whether that looks like giving money to your church or to charities or to people or food or whatever, opening up your home for people to stay in it, whatever it looks like, we need a heart of generosity. Now, also, what they're about to go into is, let me see here. They just mentioned it.
I just want to say that I agree with you.
Well, yeah. And what they're about to go into is 1 Corinthians 9, which you could actually look at it as like, okay, I'm not required to tithe to my church, but it does seem like I need to take care of my pastors and elders, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think
right?
that I think it's Hebrews and Galatians, both, that say very specifically you should take care of your pastors. Those who feed you spiritually, you should feed them physically. Those who give to you spiritually, you should give to them physically, tangibly. So, and then in 1 Corinthians 9, Paul gives out this whole case about making a living as a pastor and how, ironically, even though everybody says, well, Paul didn't, in 1 Corinthians 9, he goes, yeah, I know I didn't for this very specific reason, but everybody else does, and it's right for them to do it.
Yeah.
I could have done it and should have done it.
But then he does, and later on, right?
Yep. In certain scenarios, he does.
Yeah.
Toward the Corinthians. Now, we're getting into the text, but we will, I'm sure. But toward the Corinthians, he does not take a salary, or he does not accept any giving from them.
Yeah.
But from other churches, he absolutely accepts giving and lives off of it.
Now, something I'll ask you is, are pastors bad for preaching tithing as a commandment?
I
phrased that in a certain way on purpose.
I do think in the New Testament, if you say 10%,
every believer must this church,
and
if you go
sin
here,
if you don't.
Yeah.
I do think that that's legalism. I think that that's improper. Yeah. Exactly like Ruslan. I do think that generosity, if you are being tight-fisted, that's wrong. If you are wasting your money and living so far over your skis that you can't give, you can't be generous at all, that's wrong.
And there is a principle of generosity, like just in the way God designed people. And like when I've seen this happen where it's like it's not what he's saying where you get a curse or something like that, but when you're tight-fisted, it's like you also have to really struggle to get stuff, and you're always looking, about how to keep it in and all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like there's something about that, just like that attitude towards it that cripples you. It enslaves you. So maybe it's not like God putting a curse on you, but it's just the way things are designed by God, where it's like when you're really generous, like when you're down, people remember that and they look,
Yep. So I think if you can't live with an open hand, either because you're tight-fisted and have an ugly heart, that's wrong. If you can't live with an open hand because you're so far in debt or over your skis or whatever that you can't live with an open hand, that's wrong. But I also think that, I've listened to guys, this is the silliest thing. I remember I was watching a reel and somebody was like, Jesus said, sell everything you have and follow me. And I was like, bro, what are you filming this on and posting this on the internet with? Like, you didn't sell.
Yeah,
that was the first thought that came into my head. Anyway, the point is, you can also legalism the other way and be like, well, why isn't your hand open? Why'd you go to McDonald's? Why'd you buy that extra coffee today? You should have given that money to missions. And so I think that's why 10% is actually, it's like merciful. It's a really helpful benchmark to go, hey, listen, you don't need to never, ever take your wife on a date, never get your kids ice cream because you're trying to give as much money to missions as possible.
Yeah.
Like 10%. Shoot for 10%. That's good.
I will say, and I just want to get this in here because it's something I live with on a weekly and daily basis, is more people need to give to missionaries as well and trust missionaries.
For goodness sake.
And I think both from, pastors from the church funds and from individuals. And I think it's just like, that has been one of my biggest joys, is giving to missionaries.
It's way more fun than tithing, I'll tell you that.
Well, it's like trading cards almost.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's what I mean. It's
this
fun.
Person here, got this person here. This person's doing this kind of ministry.
Yeah, and then you open up your Find My Friends and you see people all over the map and you're like, yes, that's my people doing the Lord's work out there.
Yeah.
For sure. No, and I'll just be very candid about the way my wife and I give. Our take-home pay, we give 10% of that to our church that we attend, because the Bible says to take care of our pastor. So to our house and the place that ministers to us, we give 10% of my take-home pay. And then on top of that, as we are able, we give to missionaries around the world. We like to prioritize global missions if we can. So we have a couple of global missionaries that we support above our 10% giving to the house that we serve in and love and take care of.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not being legalistic. I'm not saying that that's how you should do it, but I am saying 10% is a merciful, helpful benchmark to aim for, both in your own budget and how to organize your finances, and in not trying to extort you so much and make you feel guilty for not giving enough. It's a good benchmark.